Okay. Excuse me. Today we're looking at kingdom dominion teachings and teachers. Uh, Dominion theology is also known as Kingdom Now and Christian Reconstructionism, and it is a curious blend of Reformed Calvinist theology and charismatic influence. It's thought to have originated in its modern form in 1960s with R.J. Rushdoony, who is a Christian philosopher and theologian, although it's been around in various forms since the 4th century AD. The Emperor Constantine was probably the first dominionist. More recently, John Wimber, founder of the Vineyard movement, was a well-known advocate of dominion theology. The kingdom dominion or restoration theology has become very popular in the past 30 years and has been gaining strength and developing its doctrine as it progressed. It can now be said that it is the most powerful and influential movement in the church and draws many Christians to its teachings and events. The charismatic Christians have been influenced in many ways by these and restoration teachings. To be sure, there are many streams of restoration movement, and their teachings are similar. This movement was or has been an integral part of the majority shepherding fellowships, house churches, and is not behind the New Apostolic Reformation, the Transformation Movement, and then there's the Peace Plan, the PEACE plan, and the Word of Faith movement, and the purpose-driven materials of Rick Warren. You will also find these false teachings in many church denominations. The truth of the belief system cannot be proven just because it is popular. Truth is not always popular. Chuck Colson of the Prison Fellowship, ECT, made the following statements. Redeeming culture is a never-ending mission of the church. And then he also said that I was deepening my understanding of what we call the cultural commission, the command to the church to take dominion and bring righteousness to our culture. And then, of course, the Bible didn't tell us that. But then there was Gary North, who is one of the vocal proponents, and he defines Reconstruction in this way. A recently articulated philosophy which argues that it is the moral obligation of Christians to recapture every institution for Jesus Christ. And then there's Rick Joyner. He's with the Kansas City Prophets, the Latter Day Rain, and New Apostolic Reformation. He states, what is about to come upon the earth is not just a revival or another awakening. It is a verifiable revolution. The vision was given in order to begin to awaken those who are destined to radically change the course and even the very definition of Christianity. And then there is Earl Polk, a Manifesto Son Dominionist. He stated, Christ in us must take dominion over the earth. The next move of God cannot occur until Christ in us takes dominion. And then he continued on. He says, the church has been foreordained of God to become that people who will become glorified, that we can bring Christ back to the earth. And this glorified church must make the earth God's footstool before Jesus can come again. Again, the Bible doesn't say that. This is just some of their misguided teachings. And then there was Jim Laffoon, who is another apostle of the New Apostolic Reformation. He stated, I am utterly convinced, as I stand here tonight, that God has raised up this family in the earth to reach every nation in our generation. But the ultimate purpose of God is not for us to reach every nation. It is to raise up a generation long after my generation is gone who, because they have reached the nations, can begin to rule the nations. And as I look at this nation, as I look at the nations of the world, I'm here to tell you that before we're done, we'll not merely plant a church in every one of the world's nations. We will study, analyze, and penetrate the cultures that control her before I die. I expect to see an incredible apostolic center in every nation in the earth. Before my children die, I expect they'll begin to see every culture in those nations begin to change. We're raising up a generation of children who, I believe, if my generation is faithful and to reach the nations of the next generations, can begin to rule the nations. It is my passion, he said. So, of course, all of these views are wrong, but you need to hear these if you haven't heard them before. There's Vincent Sinan. He's a Reconstructionist, a Reformed Reconstructionist, and he stated that in all the revolutions, there are noisy and dangerous times as the old order is replaced with the new. After the dust settles, we can proceed to build the beautiful kingdom that the Lord has purposed from the foundations of the world. And then there's Tommy Tenney. He's a former UPC, an anti-Trinitarian, and a New Apostolic Reformation fellow. He stated that God literally moves his throne from heaven. And when this happens, the church is building a chair, a seat, a place for God to come. When is the church going to arise and build a mercy seat according to the pattern of heaven? And he will literally set up his throne, and you will have a throne zone in the midst of the church. And some group somewhere is going to build a seat for the glory of God, and the water that flows from that place will eventually cover the earth. The next wave of revival is not going to be like anything you've ever seen. There will be nothing of man on it, or God won't come to sit. He is tired of breaking chairs that we have built for him. He is demanding now that we build the mercy seat. And then there's Fred Price of the Word of Faith, and he states that but God has to be given permission to work in this earth realm on behalf of man. You are in control. So if man has control, who no longer has it? God. When God gave Adam dominion, that meant God no longer had dominion. And so God cannot do anything in this earth unless we let him. And the way we let him or give him permission is through prayer. And of course, all of this is wrong. Don't believe any of these people. They're all heretics. Then there's Aaron Baxter. He's associate of William Branham and a later day Reign founder. And he stated that God's people are going to start to exercise rule. And they're going to take dominion over the power of Satan. They're going to bring the diabolical princes down. The dark powers that hover over the parliament and buildings of the nations are going to be paralyzed by the corporate prayer of an authoritative community. As the rod of his strength goes out of Zion, he'll change legislation. He'll chase the devil off the face of God's earth, and God's people together doing the will of God will bring about God's purposes and God's reign. And of course, that's not true either. And then we have Kenneth Hagin, who is deceased, but he was of the Word of Faith. He stated, yes, sin, sickness, and disease, spiritual death, poverty, and everything else that's on the that's of the devil once ruled us. But now, bless God, we rule them, for this is the day of dominion. And then there's Bill Heyman. He's a later day Reign, prophetic movement, and New Apostolic Reformation. And he states that at that time the sons of God will be fully manifested on the earth. Widespread spiritual warfare will result with the sons of God doing battle with Satan and company. The non-Christian nations of the world will also be defeated. Once the earth has been subdued, Jesus will come back to earth and be given the kingdom. and that has been won for him by this man-child company. From this short overview of these dominionists, these teachers that teach dominionism and or Reconstructionism, we can see a few of the leaders and the groups they're associated with. All of these mentioned above are false teachers, and the organizations they belong to are spreading false doctrines, and they're leading people down to the path of the lake of fire. Don't believe this stuff. And I thank you for listening.